Hi, I'm Glenn Calderon. I'm a boots on the ground certified residential appraiser in Frederick, Maryland. I'm not an educator, I'm not an instructor. This is actually my first external training document. Simply sharing this with my peers, some clients, and users of appraisers. I made this training video originally as an internal tool. However, recently I've read and seen much on this topic, and it was fairly confusing as most of it was focused on very detailed statistics and artificial intelligence. I respect and use these tools every day, but this new required part of our appraisals that is going into effect here in Q1 of 2025, it probably shouldn't be that complicated, and the use of AI and detailed stats are probably not required. AI is still in its earliest stages. You pretty much have to verify everything you use in AI right now. My thoughts are, if I have to verify everything, I really don't need AI. I'll pull my own stats, I'll pull my own data, and I'll rely on just that. I do want to clarify that I'm a huge supporter and fan of appraisal modernization, but that does not have to be complicated and certainly not intimidating for the average appraiser. So let's get into it, and here we go. First, the tools. I don't want to insult anyone by getting down to the basics, and this is pretty basic, but I'll assume you know how to access and use them. This is just a quick overview of the 6 tools that we use for the new MC and time adjustments. First, we are an a la mode shop. A la mode total. However, there's some great software out there, ACI, Bradford, Appraiser Pros, and others that we're looking at and may consider given what's going on with modernization. Second, your office software. What you use, we happen to be a Microsoft shop and an Adobe shop, but you could certainly use various Google Docs, Apple, PDF creators, and other software out there. Third, a recognized AVM that uses a confidence scale. We happen to use RPR. It's free for us, and it's part of our, I shouldn't say it's free because it's part of our MLS and NAR dues, which can be a little expensive, but it's not an additional fee assuming you have access to this. There are some great AVMs out there from CoreLogic, ICE, Veros, and others. And certainly you have to figure out what suits best you. Statistical analysis software that can provide both one-unit housing and selected market comparable reports and stats. We use Spark, Synapse, and TrueFacts is coming out. It's not available yet, but we look forward to using it. But there's other great stats software out there, including Solomon, Aloft, DataMaster, and others. The macro analysis of your marketplace. We do every other month. We prepare a macro overview of our marketplace. I've put the link here, and I'm going to show you a sample report in a couple of slides down. But that takes us about 2 to 3 hours every couple of months to create. I do believe that it supports your geographic competence in the eyes of your client and the readers of the report. Again, the software that we use is not an endorsement of any single product at all. I mean, we're probably going to be changing some software going into modernization as it kicks in here in 2025 and 2026. But this is just a sample of what we use, and certainly you have to make it fit for yourself. All right, so our first step is that we do our preliminary diligence. I happen to use a collaborative model where we have staff members and team members that do certain specific roles, but certainly you or a team member can pull the AVM, demand and turnover stats from your MLS, which I'll share with you, but make sure you save both of these to your diligence folder because it's still important to what I call support and report. Support and report, I'll mention that a number of times through this quick demo. 2, detailed diligence. Pull your comps from your MLS or data source, whatever you might use, and prepare 3 spreadsheets. One is your one unit housing, which basically has all your houses within the market area regardless of price. It's generally a larger data set. It can be a minimum of 75 to 100, but it can be hundreds, depending on the turnover of your marketplace and what really is part of one unit housing stats. And what I consider this to be a blend of both the macro stats and the micro stats. Your market comparables, which are really those that you're using to make up the old 1004 MC. These are selected sales and listings that most closely represent the subject and its features. These could be as few as 6 to 10, or, and then again, depending on your marketplace, could be 100 or more. This is fairly micro statistics, and I do break them down between micro and macro. I think it's important that we look at both. And then lastly, your comps that you're going to use in your grid, which could be as few as 3 or as many as 10 or more perhaps, depending on how you operate and work with your grid. Again, this is very micro based. And again, take these 3 spreadsheets, import them into your diligent folder. It's important that you support and report. Next, let's analyze. Make sure your diligence folder has what you're going to be working on. For example, here's our comps, here's our market conditions report, here's our one unit housing, here's our AVM. All these features should be within your diligence folder. Some say this is a lot, some say it's not enough. It's what we use. We haven't had any issues with it. I strongly recommend that you document your diligence in your diligence folder. Let's take a look at an AVM. For example, our AVM, which is the RPR, shows that we are at about a 2.6% annualized growth rate in that specific zip code. Our AVM is zip code based. I think that's pretty micro enough to support the MC and your time adjustments. It also features the county, the state, and USA stats as well, which we look at and consider. Our MLS, which is called Bright, provides, and many MLSs do provide, fairly detailed statistics in regards to demand and supply. In this specific instance, we look at this and we see that the demand for the zip code as compared to the county fairly mirrors it, but it's up and down, and it can be a little bit higher, can be a little bit lower, depends on the month. But overall, what the demand index is looking at is it's a little bit below average, as you can see, which certainly I keep in the back of my mind when I'm doing my work. Next thing I look at is turnover. As you can see in here, it appears to be 8 to 10 sales a month, which is probably enough for you to be able to say that, hey, this zip code has enough turnover for me to make an intelligent decision. About 100 sales in a year, that should work. Next, your stats program, based on the spreadsheets that you pull, will prepare both your MC, market comparables, and your one unit housing stats. Your top graph up here is our competing or market stats. This would be from our MC, if you will. As you can see, if you're looking at the trend, and again, the numbers here and the dates might be a little blurred, but again, I'm not here to talk about prices. I'm not here to talk about dates. I think what we need to look at is the trend. And the same trend, if you look here, is fairly similar for the one unit housing. Fairly stable, fairly flat. Again, all these things are going into my bag of tricks here that I'll basically reconcile to provide a final market conditions and time adjustment conclusion. As I mentioned before, we prepare a one-page report which details both some micro and macro stats for our marketplace. We publish it on our website. We also put this into every single one of our reports to support our market conditions. Again, I'm not going to go into much detail. You're more than welcome to go to this website. You're more than welcome to look at as many of these as you'd like. We've been using this and doing this since 2020. So lastly, I summarize and I reconcile. My AVM was up 2.6%. The zip code was lower than average demand with about 8 to 10 sales a month. My market condition trend change was actually 0. That was determined by my stats provider, Spark and Synapse. The 1-unit housing trend was also flat. The macro summary, the county was up 3.8%, the state was up 4.1%. The five proximate counties that we cover that kind of surround or border this specific property ranged from down 8.8% to up 15.6%. So it's a pretty wide range. So now we have some data points, we now have some facts, we now can reconcile these like we would reconcile an opinion of market value based on some moving parts. And I will repeat this pretty much verbatim, but I'm sure you could read it, but I want you to understand how important this is. An analysis was performed on 46 properties, which was our stats from our MC over the past 12 months. The sales within the group had a median sales price of $450, ranging from $290 to $671. The analysis showed a change of actually 0. That's not common, but on this specific case, it was 0. These sales had a median DOM of 7, which is kind of odd considering that demand is flat. It's just the marketplace today. Things sell fast. Our marketplace is under 15 days pretty consistently. People consider stuff at stale at over 2 weeks. I know it's not that case everywhere, but that's the case here in this marketplace. We used a high confidence AVM as a source of local marketplace data, which I just shared with you. That showed a 2.6% increase over the past 12 months, which supports a stable to relatively moderately increasing market. This is influenced by new construction in the market area. So if you strip out new construction from that, actually that number is probably a little bit lower because new construction has been stronger. We've also attached the market conditions update, which I shared with you earlier. We've reconciled these to support a stable market. How do we define a stable market? It's hard to come up with a specific number, like this market's up 2% or 3% or whatever. But generally, we look at it, a stable market is -3 to +3, plus or minus. That's our opinion because it really does vary from market to market. And I think it's to say that to do adjustments based on a 1% or 1.5% adjustment isn't all that impactful. I think if a market is decreasing at more than 3%, it's decreasing. And if it's increasing at more than 3%, it's increasing. Everything in between probably supports, in our marketplace, in our professional opinion, a stable market. Okay, the GSEs announced they'll require this to support. It doesn't have to be complex. We've been providing similar information since 2020. I think it's great that they're now asking for this, but you don't have to be a statistics or analytics expert to do this. It's quite easy. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not important. I think one of the most important roles of the local appraiser is to provide data and comment on local markets and statistics. Again, AI statistical analysis can pull the data and provide the stats, but only the local pro, meaning you, meaning me, can reconcile this and guide the reader to see the issue. I compare it to a doctor. I'm sure we've all had x-rays or MRIs or CTs done. Imagine that your doctor took your x-ray, took your MRI, and just gave it to you and left the room. What are you supposed to do with it? We have to take the same approach in providing this data to our readers, to our clients, and say, hey, this is what we see here. And I think that's most important. Feedback's a gift. I really appreciate your time. If you'd like a copy of this video, please feel free to reach out to this website, our website, and good luck. And again, it doesn't have to be terribly complicated. Thank you.